What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Unsportsmanlike Conduct. I'm Christian Stoyanov, and today we are talking about the NBA playoffs. Been real busy lately, but finally getting some time to talk about all these series and everything that's going on and how everything started off looking like it was going to be a quick second round of the playoffs, but things have changed up lately. So let's begin with the first game that's coming on tonight. So tonight we got the Sixers playing the Hawks. This series has been interesting, to say the least. So game one, Atlanta comes out, and they pound the Sixers. They are destroying them. First of all, no one knew if Embiid would play. Then Embiid ends up playing, which you think would be a huge boost for the Sixers. And you figured, all right, maybe Atlanta could steal a game or two if Embiid is not playing. But Embiid plays in game one, and Atlanta comes out, and Atlanta just routs the Sixers. They are up by like 20 points. Go into the third. This is a blowout. And then all of a sudden they decide that they want to try to give this game up. So Philly pulls off this miraculous comeback at the end of the fourth quarter. And Atlanta just showed their youth. I mean, essentially Atlanta showed that they don't know how to close a game out. So they're panicking. They're turning the ball over. They're letting the Sixers get their way. There's a steal. Ben Simmons with a dunk. And the place is rocking. But they couldn't do enough to overtake Atlanta. So Atlanta steals home court advantage from the Sixers and takes game one in Philadelphia. So now things get interesting because now the pressure's on the Sixers. Not only was Embiid back for this game, they had home court, and now they just fumbled it away. So they end up losing game one by 4 points to the Hawks. So game two, all right, here comes Philly. So you think Philly's going to come out. Now they got to destroy Atlanta and send a message like, hey, we're here and we're the Sixers. We're not just a bottom feeder team. And they do that. They come out. They, switched up defense. They put Simmons on Trae Young and Tybalt on Trae Young instead of Danny Green. And Trae didn't play as well in game two. But after Philly gets off to a good start and goes up by 10 plus points, and it looked like they were going to blow out the Hawks. Now the Hawks start making a comeback, and then this game got a little closer than it seemed until then at the end, Philly just took over again. So the Hawks did cut into that lead, and in the start of the fourth quarter, it seemed like we were going to have a good ball game, but Philly goes on and then pounds the Hawks and wins by 16. So we got this series tied at 1. But remember, Atlanta went in there looking to steal home court, and that's exactly what they did. Trae Young has played great so far in these series if you combine the game one and game two. And so has Embiid. Embiid averaging almost 40 points in those two games. Trae Young's averaging 28 points and about 10 assists a game. So, the superstars are coming out to play. So we'll see what happens now with tonight. It's game 3 in Atlanta. You know the Hawks fans and that place is going to be off the charts. So I'm very intrigued for this game. I think this game could go one or two ways. I think either the Sixers come out and kind of just hush the Hawks and let them know that, hey, now that we figured out how to guard Trae Young and to put better defenders on you, it's over. Because without you kill the head of the snake, it's over. So if they can control Trae Young, this game is over. But if the Hawks are to win, I see this being one of those games where it's just everything is going for the Hawks. It's just buckets, 3 balls, everything's happening for Atlanta. And the Sixers just, if it's not Embiid, we know Simmons doesn't have the reliable jump shot, but Tobias and those other guys have to come through. So we'll see how this goes. I'm very intrigued to see if Atlanta can hold serve. If they could take this game 3 tonight, the pressure that will be on the Sixers in game 4 will be off the charts, and it'll be the second game in this series already where they have some major, major pressure. So we will see how this series goes. I'm very intrigued. Like I said, Philly's the number 1 seed in the East. So Atlanta being the number 5 seed, if you go down to them 2-1 without home court, pressure's on, boys. Pressure's on. So that's that series. And then the nightcap tonight is Phoenix and Denver. And this series just hasn't seemed like a fair fight. It's pretty much Jokic against the Phoenix Suns. And even Jokic, the MVP of the league, once you put some size on him and people to guard him, It ain't the same. He's not the same animal. He's averaging 23 points and 11 rebounds, but his assists are down. He's at 4.5 assists per game. And you know who has elevated his game is Chris Paul. So as much love as Jokic deserves for his MVP, well deserved, I would say. I think he would have been my MVP as well. You know, Chris Paul, if you want to talk most valuable, what he's brought to the Phoenix Suns is, it's irreplaceable. I think that leadership, that steadiness, if you notice at the end of the games, when it's close, ball's in CP3's hands, and he's the dude not afraid to take the shots. Devin Booker's also becoming a mature player who can come through in the clutch. And I think a lot of that, most of that is due to that veteran leadership that Chris Paul has brought. The first game really wasn't all that close. Phoenix wins by 17. And you think, you would have thought that Denver would have put up a better fight. But, it was game one. The crowd was rocking in Phoenix, and the Suns were coming off of knocking off the Lakers, which was huge in LA. The Devin Booker 47-point game. Dude went off. But they weren't asleep. They were not asleep. The Suns came out, pounded the Nuggets, and took game one. So game two, I expected this to be a close one. Even if Denver was going to lose, I thought it was going to be, a close game down to the wire. But no, this one was worse than game one. Phoenix just was too good, man. Too good. And Denver is so reliant on Jokic. And, you didn't really feel the absence of Jamal Murray in that first round matchup they had against Portland. But you felt it here. And you feel it here. So Denver at least is coming home for game three. And it's desperate times for them. They need this game. They need this game big time. I think Jokic can elevate his game. I think, they can offensively play a lot better, make shots. But really what comes down to it is the defense. I mean, giving up 122 points and then 123 points to the Suns that's just a lot of points to give up to the Suns team, who is a solid offensive team, but they're not that good of an offensive team. They're not the Brooklyn Nets to be putting up 122, 123. So, Mike Malone, the head coach of the Nuggets, called him out pretty much in that press conference, which, you're walking a fine line. That could go both ways. Either it wakes up the team, or the team goes, hey, where's your accountability? Maybe you weren't putting us in a position to play well. So very interesting to see how this goes. I think obviously this is the make or break game right here. If the Nuggets lose this one, I think their season's a wrap. Could be as quick as a 4-game sweep. But if the Nuggets show some fight and come through tonight and can beat the Phoenix Suns, then I think we have a series. Because then I think obviously that would have meant they figured something out. They got their offense going, and they figured out something on defense. So we will see great games tonight that I'm very much looking forward to. I expected this series to be a long one, with them being a 2 and the 3 seed. But, if this game doesn't go Denver's way, this will be a quick series, I think. So we'll see how that goes tonight. And, if we've learned anything about a team getting destroyed in the first 2 games and then bouncing back, look no further than the Milwaukee Bucks and Brooklyn Nets series. So this series, sometimes with these basketball series, it's really incredible to me how it can shift so quickly. So game one in Brooklyn, people think it's going to be a close game. Milwaukee's been prepping for this. It's Giannis's team. He's coming through. He's got help finally. And they just get destroyed in game one. So they end up losing by 8 to Brooklyn, but it was not that close. Brooklyn loses James Harden in the beginning of game one, and it seems like this is that opportunity for the Bucks to take control right away. But instead, Brooklyn, man, I think as much as we've said that it's a flaw that their big three haven't played together a lot this season, it's kind of working in their favor because they've gotten used to not having one of their big three not playing. And so with Harden going down early, it's not something they're not used to. So they just adjusted. KD took over. Kyrie did his thing. Blake Griffin, who I'll get into Blake Griffin rant in a minute. But who are these other guys all of a sudden? Bruce Brown, Mike James, all these guys that are role players that all of a sudden are playing big time. So Brooklyn took game 1. Game 2, all right, Milwaukee's bounce back game? No, definitely not. They were down by 45 plus points at one point in this ball game, and Brooklyn just looked unstoppable. So, I mean, the first 2 games, you would have thought this was a regular season game of like a number 2 seed against a lottery team. And instead, you're in the Eastern Conference semifinals and, the teams get destroyed. The Bucks are getting destroyed. So we shift gears, game 3 in Milwaukee. And again, it's the make or break game. If Milwaukee loses, series is pretty much over, probably in 4 games. And then we have a score of 86-83. Yes, we have a 1997 score for this game. 86-83, which I swear this could I wouldn't be surprised if this is the halftime score for this game, for a game between these two. I don't get how this score happened, but the Bucks pulled it out somehow. Milwaukee came through. Middleton hit clutch free throws at the end, and honestly, KD just didn't want it. And it's kind of a repeating headline where, he does sometimes and sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he plays and sometimes he doesn't. And that's Kyrie. And, KD could have used them here at the end. But there's no panic. Brooklyn just, even in this loss, Milwaukee had to have everything pretty much go their way. And they still only won by 3. And that's a scary thing when you think about the rest of the NBA landscape and where these playoffs will go. So it very much looks like Brooklyn's just going to have its way in this series. But you never know. And as we've learned, whether it's momentum or whatever you want to call it, they say there's no momentum in the playoffs. But sometimes it's the momentum of figuring out a strategy or figuring out a way to stop the other team, like moves on a chessboard, and the other team not being able to figure it out. So, hey, whatever Milwaukee did, give them credit. They got the win. And if that strategy happens to work out again in game 4 somehow, and it's a tied series, the pressure is on rookie head coach Steve Nash to make that next move to combat whatever Mike Budenholzer is doing with the Bucks. Because, don't forget, Steve Nash is a rookie coach. He's done a great job this year, but it's all about, how you bounce back and what adjustments you make. And give the Bucks credit. They made some adjustments, and it happened to work out and put them in the winning side. So we have a 2-1 series, and, with Game 4 coming up, and that should be pretty exciting on Sunday. Although I do think that the game might not be that exciting. I think Brooklyn's going to send a message. So I have a Blake Griffin thing to say, but let's wrap this up with the next series, and then I'll get to that. So Utah and the Clippers. The Clippers come off that Game 7 win against Dallas where Kawhi was just incredible. And you think to yourself, man, maybe we're sleeping on Kawhi again. This might be the best player in the league, and he's just here reminding us. So they go to Utah, Game 1, no Mike Conley for the Jazz, and, the Clippers actually playing pretty well. They go up by 10 or so in the first half, and it looks like the Clipper team that just finished putting away the Mavericks, and it looks like they are, here for the series and ready to go from the tip and play hard, and Kawhi to carry this team and get it done. And the role players are still playing really well. Reggie Jackson's all of a sudden become Steph Curry hitting threes all the time. What the hell is that about? I don't know who this Reggie Jackson is, but props to him. He's hitting big time shots. But then Utah just bounces back in the second half, shows us why they're the number 1 seed in the West, and takes that Game 1 game 112-109 at home. So you think to yourself, wow, all right, Utah essentially did what they had to do, which was, take Game 1, they're at home, it's what you're supposed to do. But the Clippers were close, and you think, yeah, the Clippers, once they get a little bit more of that sense of urgency in this Game 2, get used to this rocking crowd in Utah, which was great, by the way. It's so awesome to see that again. You're thinking, all right, the Clippers will bounce back in Game 2 and Kawhi will carry them and put them on their shoulders. But no, the leading scorer in Game 2 was Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson led the Clippers in scoring in Game 2. And guess what? Donovan Mitchell, he's here, folks. And Donovan Mitchell took his team and put them on their shoulders again. And the Jazz go up 2-0 in the series. They get another win, 117-111 over the Clippers. And, I mean, Donovan's averaging 41 points per game right now. I know it's only 2 games, but if he can just carry 80% of that over into LA, I mean, we may be talking about what the Clippers are going to do and if they should blow it up again soon. I obviously have been expecting Kawhi. Since Game 2, I expected Kawhi to carry this team, but he didn't do it in Game 2, so I almost even expected more out of Game 3. I think Kawhi's got to show up. He's got to get it done. I mean, for all the talk about Paul George and, playoff P and all this crap, I mean, dude's averaging 23.5 points, 10 rebounds a game, 4 assists in this series with 2 road games. And, he wasn't terrible in the Dallas game, in the Dallas series, so, he's not Dame Lillard. He's not going to want the ball and try to hit the game winner every time. But if this is the production you're getting from your number 2, it should be fine as long as your number 1 is showing up. And, but I'm just going to say it. I trust Kawhi. So I think Game 3 is going to be a different game. I think Kawhi can kind of get into this bad habit of just, walking through games until the pressure's on and until his back's against the wall. We saw it in the Dallas series. They were down 3-2 going into Dallas. He came through, had a 40-point game. Then they went back to LA, Game 7, pressure's on, took care of business then too. So Game 3 is huge. I think Kawhi will carry the Clippers to bounce back in this series. But hey, you're playing with fire here if you're the Clippers. So can't keep it that close and can't wait till the very end to wake up. It's like procrastinating for a test. Don't be surprised if you don't do well on the test. Maybe there's a surprise in that test that you weren't expecting, and you actually procrastinating isn't the way to go. And so sometimes I feel like that might backfire on these Clippers. I feel like they should have and needed to steal one of those first 2 games. And to add another wrinkle, the Jazz are probably going to get Mike Conley back for Game 3. And so now the Clippers are going to have to scramble on defense and try to learn on the go how to guard and what to do with Conley and the pick and roll action that Conley and Rudy Gobert have. So we shall see what happens in that series, but I'm intrigued. A lot of interesting Game 3s starting with, like I said, tonight. So should be very interesting. These Game 3s have been awesome. And, if it's not the team that's down 2-0 that takes it, it kind of just, takes the life out of the series. So we'll see what happens. So, all right, I need to talk about this Blake Griffin thing. And, I mean, it's not a thing. I don't think people are really talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it because it's bothered me. Blake Griffin was on the Clippers, gets shipped away to Detroit, and all season didn't dunk once. And obviously played with, I wouldn't have said it then, but I'm saying it now. He played with no desire to play. You can't not dunk and talk about it, and then all of a sudden you get bought out, go to Brooklyn, and now you're like back to Blake Griffin, slam dunk champ, dunking every single game, throwing it down, diving on the floor. Like, I just have a problem with that. To me, that just speaks to your professionalism. And, all power to him. He's going to maybe get his ring this year, and that's great and all. But at some point, employers, teams are going to say to themselves, man, like, so many of these players are just choosing to play when they choose to play, but we're paying them with this expectation that they're going to show up every night. It can't work like that. It's going to backfire at some point, not just for the league. It's going to backfire for the players. I think it's disrespectful to the organization who's paying you. It's disrespectful to your teammates, to your coaches, to your job. You're getting a paycheck with the expectation of 100% effort. And when you blatantly throw it in the face of everyone around you that you don't care to put in 100% effort, there has to be something coming down from the league to say that's not okay. And obviously, this Nets team is full of that. That's why they've been so hard to root for, I think, for so many people. Because it's hard to root for someone that only shows up when they feel like it, but are getting paid with the expectation that they're going to show up every single day and are getting treated with the expectation and respect like they're showing up every single day. Kyrie taking days off because he doesn't want to play. What's going to happen when a playoff series starts and it's game 1 and they're the 1 seed against the 8th seed and Kyrie's just like, I'm sitting this one out because we can sweep them even without me. Like, that's a dangerous place that the league is going to. I think if you're a fan that paid good tickets to go to a game to see some of these superstars, I mean, it started years ago, but something has to be done. I understand that. I'm not blaming the players for taking advantage of this situation. I think that's they're going to look out for their best interest. So I get it on the player side. I'm just saying as an employer side, you got to put your foot down and say, no, this is not okay. Or, hey, if you're going to miss these games, then you're not getting paid because we've got this expectation that you're coming to work every single day. It's not a regular 9-to-5 job. You're a superstar. You're exactly the reason why you think you're allowed to take days off of work is the reason why you aren't. That's your expectation. That's the weight that's on your shoulders. I mean, LeBron James can have an incredible year. Maybe making the playoffs and having the type of season that he had would be a huge accomplishment for Zion Williamson. But at this point, when you're LeBron James, expectations are way higher. And he understands that. That's why he himself might say this season was a failure. We didn't win the title. So that's where the expectation needs to be on these players, to show up and to put effort in and to not treat an organization like Blake Griffin did to the Detroit Pistons. I'm sorry, I am sticking up for the Detroit Pistons because guess what? The Detroit Pistons also bring in fans and are part of the NBA. And I know that everyone only cares about the good teams. But when that number of good teams only becomes 8 in the league and you don't care about the other 22, you got an 8-team league and that's not going to work out. That's a lot of fans. That's a lot of people. Like, fine. You want to have your big-time teams and whatever, like, do it. But you're losing so many games and it's dangerous. I mean, the players right now are all for a shortened season. Of course they are. I would be too if I was a player. But eventually, if you're shortening the season, there's less product out there. And if you make less money, then as the player, you're going to make less money. Right now, the players are for a shortened season because they're expecting to make the same amount of money or maybe better money. And guess what? Ticket sales will go up. Everything will go up to make that money. But when that money's not coming in, it's going to affect you guys. And so I just think we're in such a instant gratification and me right now type of era that these guys, they always talk about, shout out to the older guys that paved the way for us young guys. Well, this mentality is not setting up the future guys. It's a very me mentality right now in the league. And I think it's just dangerous moving forward. I think, it might not affect Kyrie Irving. It might not affect the superstars and today, James Harden. Might not affect them. They're still going to get their paycheck. They got contracts 5 years from now. But when that money dwindles down in the NBA, it's going to affect the future superstars, the kids that are in middle school right now or elementary school that can become the next Jason Tatums, become the next Devin Bookers. It's going to cost them. And so, I mean, like I said, it's hard to blame the players because you do got to look out for yourself. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's the league's responsibility and Adam Silver's responsibility to, at some point here soon, probably put his foot down and say, hey, this is the job. We've got to make this product be as good as it possibly can be every single night. So we maximize the opportunity and keep it growing. That's what's made it grow all these years. Like, seriously, think if Kobe or Allen Iverson back in the day would have just been sitting there and saying, Shaq would have just taken days off and been like, yeah, I'm not playing these next 3 games. Like, these guys like KD and all of these guys wouldn't be as successful now if it wasn't for those sacrifices and that time spent and those games played by those guys back in the day. So that's my rant. I just started off because I just saw Blake. Good for him. I'm not knocking Blake's ability, or I'm not telling him to play like crap right now. I'm just telling him that he owes Detroit an apology, or he owes Detroit some kind of love to say, hey, I'm sorry that I didn't give the effort that you guys deserve. Because the fans in Detroit, just like the fans in Brooklyn, are paying money to see these teams. And, just like the owner in Detroit and the owner in Brooklyn are signing your paychecks too. So a lot of it is based on your effort. Who knows, if Blake had been playing with this effort in Detroit, maybe the team would have been better. Maybe his teammates would have been better. Maybe the organization would have been like, hey, you know what? Let's try to bring in other people in here that are playing like Blake, because maybe they would have been like these other guys. It would have shown maybe the other guys were the ones slacking too. So I don't know. I just hate the lack of professionalism. And I think he owes that Detroit fan base an apology. If I was a Pistons fan and if I was watching Blake play now, just 2 months ago, 3 months ago, when he was on my team, he wasn't diving. When he was on my team, he wasn't doing this. So come on, man. Earn your paycheck. That's all we're asking. Show up to work and do the job that, is expected of you. And if you can't come through with that, sacrifice the money then. Then go tell the Pistons, hey, you know what? I'm only going to play 60% effort today. So just don't bother. Just give me 60% of my salary. If that's what you want, fair. But that's not what's going on. These guys sometimes want to give 50% of the effort and still get 100% of the pay. And I'm just saying that's fine right now. You'll get away with it now, and that's cool. But eventually, if I'm the people writing the checks, that 100% pay is going to start dropping. And the people that are going to see that are the young kids that are working their asses off now to be the next Blake Griffins, to be the next Chris Pauls, the next LeBron James. So, the future's at stake, and I think it's a sad reality that sometimes a lot of these guys get caught up in this moment right now and forget that. And so yeah, anyway, we'll see how these games go. I'll try to come back next week. Been a busy time now that we're back working and traveling and doing things again, but I enjoy talking to you guys, and talking sports obviously is my favorite thing to do. So I'll be back with another episode hopefully in a few days. Maybe I'll have another guest on, and we'll see where these series are at. Maybe some of them are over by then. We shall see. But all right, until then, thank you guys, and please remember to subscribe and share if you can. I'll see you next time on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.